Welcome to the Global Exclusive Podcast. This is episode 57. I'm one of your hosts, Shadow. Episode 57. You know what else is 57? Yesterday was the 57th day of the year when we're recording this. So today's the 58th. It would have been great if it lined up and it was like a fantastic thing, but it didn't line up. So I'm just trying to force it here.
So basically, nothing happened.
Yeah. Useless fact of the day. But not something that's not useless is that we're joined by one of the earliest contributors of the FFBE community, I think, Lady Hero. Say hi to the listeners.
Hello, hi everybody. It's me, Lady Hero. I don't really know how to respond to one of the earliest contributors, but I basically hang around the subreddit and the Discord.
Would the most well-known count then?
I wouldn't
The
say
most
that
well-known
either.
would be better.
No. We figured this out a couple weeks ago. It's the most. No?
Yes, the most
Oh my
contributor.
goodness.
The
I'm gonna have to leave and find this person you guys are looking for.
Man, I still remember reading some of your earliest comics and just feeling so bad for Lightning. Like, you really made me feel bad for Lightning. I remember this so strongly.
That's really weird. I don't ever remember feeling bad for Lightning. So I think you might be having me confused with someone else. I only remember
You're a
treating
cruel
Lightning very
mistress.
well. I've only treated Lightning very, very well.
Yeah. No, but I mean, yeah. Yes, you have.
For those who are interested, the comics I post is called Lightning and Me. They're on the subreddit Brave Exvius, and they should still also be hosted on FFBE Equip. They're nothing that serious, but if you haven't heard of it, it's just a short series about my love for FFBE and my journey with Lightning.
And for those who
And they are
not
delightful,
who are
so
not
you
sure,
should
like,
definitely
what,
check them
Very
out.
enjoyable.
and for those who are not quite sure what's going on, Lady Hero is like one of our most well-known fan art contributors, I guess, with her Lightning Me comic. I believe she's been to some of the fan festas as well, if I'm not mistaken.
I have been to FanFesta, and I've done some cosplaying as either Tifa or as Fina. So if we ever had to meet, I'm really happy to have lots of people at FanFesta. We took pictures, and I gave out some buttons.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yes, I was at the LA one. I was giving out buttons, had the entrance, and taking some photos with
I have that.
my
Wait, let me
cosplay.
find it.
Oh,
I
gosh.
still have that.
Yeah,
no, I can't.
Shadow, find it so you can show it to people who are listening to the audio podcast.
Maybe if you tap it against the mic a bit, it will give us a feeling of
Can't
holding
find
it.
it.
That is definitely how sound works.
But if you haven't
No,
read
I
her
have feelings-
comics, go read her comics. It's really good. It's still amazing, and we really wish you would continue doing more, either FFBE stuff or Faye stuff, because I really liked your Robin stuff too. So there was that.
Is that so? I actually get really nervous whenever I have to do a stream or when I met people in person, but I try to smile past it. So one of the biggest reasons I get nervous on streaming like FFB content is because I mess up so much. I'm not Sinzar. I like the reverse
One can be
Sinzar.
Sinza except for Sinza. Maybe not even
Since
Sinza
that just
sometimes.
cuts it out when he messes up.
I'm just
Yeah.
the reverse Sinzar. Like anything that's the right thing to do, I do the opposite. So one of the biggest thing I wanted to do when NV Lightning came out, or was coming out, or at least in Japan, was I wanted to do like an all Lightning roster type of run, and I haven't done trials in ages. But today, today with NV Lightning released, I barely know anything about her. And when I look at her, she's like, people are saying she's a tank, she's a breaker, she evades, she whatever. I'm so lost. So I'm really grateful you guys invited me on this podcast where I can ask the real questions.
Nice. We can tell you what Lightning is all about. That's excellent. That feels entirely in the wrong order, to be honest.
Well, I want to run every single Lightning. So I don't really know what OG Lightning does now. I also don't know what Radiant Lightning does now. And of course, there's Lumina that came out. That's the event unit. So
Hey,
I'm
lady.
hoping you guys tell me. Yes?
I don't think even Alim knew what OG Lightning does, so you're not alone there.
Hey, stop spoiling it. Stop spoiling it. We're about to go
Feeling
into the
Radiant
units.
Lightning is more confused than
Fine.
OG Lightning.
I read a bunch of content and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it because I feel like aside from just asking about how Envy Lightning and all these lightnings are going to do by themselves or with a dupe, I also want to know Furycraft wise, if I happen to want to use all of them on the same team, divisions of roles, who's going to be the rage, who's going to be the tank, is someone that can actually be a healer? Are healers still viable these days? All sorts of questions. I have so much questions to ask.
Nice. And I mean,
We'll get-
but you know, something that you're saying really gets me going, because why didn't they take this opportunity to kind of turn all the Lightnings into a full roster, right? So they could do like OG Lightning's Brave Shift could be a healer, Radiant Lightning's Brave Shift could be
I mean,
Cover
they're pretty
tank.
close. They have almost every role covered.
Yeah.
Oh, I
yeah.
think,
Surprisingly,
That's a healer.
like, who can cover magic?
I
Lightning,
think
13-2.
13-2
13-2
Lightning.
Lightning.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought
She
Brave
doesn't
Shift
have it-
Lightnings also covered magic.
Oh shit! Yeah, of course we're counting the free units too. Oh yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that.
So
New Lightning only has Provoke though, but
Okay.
yeah, the
We're-
13-2 Lightning can cover magic.
we're actually going to talk about lightnings first today in the podcast, so it's a great segue that we introduce each of the lightnings, but in release order. So let's talk about.
So should we call this part of the podcast the Thunderstorm?
Sure,
Wait,
let's do that.
Where's the rain then? All the Finas.
Yeah, no Finas or Rings.
Everyone
Well,
is Rain.
Lady cosplayed as a Fina, she said, so we kind of have a Fina.
So
Athena at heart.
OG Lightning, give us a rundown of her damage. It's trash. Forget it.
Yeah,
But
Tree,
over-
you're a math slave. Talk to us about damage.
It's a very
It-
nice way to reintroduce Lady Hero to Envy. Her first lightning is trash.
Thank you.
She's not. Eventually, I'll get to speak. She is not that bad. She's sort of on. She's on the sort of damage level of early base Envies like Axstar and stuff, and yeah, she stays as just like a physical chainer, and all of the versions of Lightning are quite appropriately locked to lightning damage. But
Surprise.
so yeah, she sticks with physical and mostly just wants to stay in her shift form, chain bolting strike, and her main sort of unique thing is that she has a cooldown that reduces gun resistance by a pretty hefty 35%. So that means everyone who's equipping guns, if they have it in both hands or are dual wielding two guns, will do 35% more damage while that buffs up, so that can sort of amp your whole team up a fair bit.
Oh, that makes me kind of curious. So they introduce weapon type defense debuffs at
Yeah.
this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
just
they
in the
work.
last
They
couple
work like
months or so.
elemental imperils. So, like, if you're wielding a gun and a sword, and you have a 20% gun imperil, then you'll deal 10% more damage because it averages the two.
Okay.
But at the
Yeah.
moment, we only have like weapon imperials for certain weapon types. I think Shadow does katana, Locke does a weaker gun and a throwing weapon, and so on. So it's only limited to a few specific units.
Yeah, and some of them aren't very strong.
And I trashed on her in the beginning, but I really think NBA Lightning is a really cool unit design, and that they gave her a ridiculous niche. And if you need that niche, she's probably the best unit of choice for it, because in that gun imperil, she also has a 250% attack, and her Magnus ability, or not Magnus, what do they call these again?
Grandis.
Grandis ability. She also gives LB damage buff and killers for Machinas. So, in a sense, in specific situations, Lightning is a great support unit, and I think that's better than making a generic DPS that's going to be outclassed in 2 weeks.
So she can
And-
act as a offensive support with her Brave Shift.
Yeah, especially with her limit burst, because that does attack like a pretty strong attack and magic buff for the whole team, and AoE, Lightning Imbue, and Amp. And then, in specifically if thinking synergy with the other Lightnings, she will give that 25% Lightning Amp to Radiant Lightning, and in return, she is able to stay in her Brave Shift, and because she doesn't need to go back to base form to reapply Imperil if there's another Lightning doing it, and that
Yep.
amps her own damage up in turn.
Like, unironically, this and base Lightning works really well with SOS Lightning or Radiant Lightning in a certain degree, because Radiant, not Radiant Lightning's base form if you're doing physical damage maybe, but in SOS Lightning, most chances you want to give her Black Sparky for best in slot. Then Black Sparky is a gun, you get the gun resistance, and obviously the lightning amps. So her niche is there, and I tried to figure out if there was anything in JP that overlapped with her niche, and I couldn't find anything yet. So she has staying power with her niche.
Cool, that's really good to hear.
So that's the vanilla flavor of Lightning.
I mean, should someone like... Nobody has still yet said the obligatory, this is really good for DV. So I'm like, Muspel, do you feel like saying that?
She's okay for DV. She doesn't burst very hard.
I mean,
But-
she doesn't synergize well with my Terra, so I can't really say that she's good for DV.
Hey, you just need to equip 2 guns on your Terra and you're good to go. I don't see what the problem is.
Yeah, but Terra uses fire. Lightning does, well, lightning.
True.
But I want to recycle a joke that I used earlier today and move on to the next unit, who is literally a Radiant version of Lightning.
Oh my
Exactly
gosh.
identical in every way except Radiant.
Well,
Well,
you're
right.
not Hazard, you don't get
I
to
don't
do the
get the
dad
joke.
joke.
Thanks, Muspel.
Great joke.
I don't get the good joke. Somebody needs to
Is
explain
that
it
the
to me
joke,
because I'm
like
dumb.
Lightning and the cooler lightning?
It was a grand strategist joke. How DP Fina is literally a light version of Terra.
Oh,
That was
that
weak.
was really bad joke. I did not get it, and I am dumb, but I'm not that dumb. It was a bad joke.
Well, Radiant Lightning is more, I think, of a generic magic DPS with Bolting Strike lightning damage. She does have some things on her that make her unique.
She's still got like her old backup breaks in her base form, but yeah, for damage, she mostly just wants to purely stay in shift form and as a mage with her skills, and mostly wants to spam her limit burst as much as possible. And then, so yeah, she's kind of like halfway between the sort of lower pack of mages that are like 150 to 200 billion and the really good NV base mages like Physalis and Ibarra. So she's a bit of a mid-ground between them and is a nice budget option for lightning damage. And I think that'll be nice on at least one upcoming trial.
How would she fare
Lightning magic.
against? How would she fare against? Wait, didn't we just have a trial where you would use ice or lightning?
Yeah, Demon Chimera, she would be alright. I think she might be a little weak to get it done in turn count, because that's pretty tight. But
What if you give her a lot
maybe
of external LB support? Because like her LB hits
maybe,
really hard.
Maybe with that.
She already
With
has
that,
an LB
she
damage
might
buff,
be able
so
to do it.
like you can fill
No.
her LB with help, but
Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant. Like you make sure that she can do it every turn. Maybe.
I think the
then.
bigger concern is that Demon Chimera is a dual race enemy and she can't equip rods, so getting the right killers can be a little rough. Like you can fix that with some items, but
She needs a
Isn't
lot
her
of...
stat like pretty attacks? Isn't her stats like more attack geared too?
Yeah, because of her base
Yeah.
form, her sort of pot spread is still physical focused, but she does have 500 flat magic to kind of partially make up for it.
Her gearing issue is still the biggest in terms of like how we're actually going to practically use her as a mage, right? Because she can't equip rods. So you're looking at spears with magic or guns with magic probably in most cases to use.
swords.
But
Equip
the thing
rod?
is, though, we've seen from Physalis that that's not that hard to get around. You just equip Crow as TMR or upgrade package and use rods anyway.
Yes, my
Yeah,
upgrade
there's
package.
also been
Yes,
also
let me
actually
just grab my upgrade package.
I mean, Crow as TMR is also fine.
there's a few good magic swords and guns out there, like Fourwind
Terra's
Specialist's
STMR.
STMR or Terra's STMR. But yeah, it's certainly something that you have to work around or work with. It's not as simple as most mages.
Think about it. If you have 2 or 4 Wind Physalis STMR, you can give her 2 guns, then you can use her with base lightning, who gives her lightning damage amp, and the gun Imperial.
Yeah. And they both chain bolting strike.
But that's probably a bit too well.
Well,
to
So,
even
lady,
have 2 of those.
here you go. Here's the first trial tip, because this people probably want to see, since this trial can only be beaten by 2 units right now. So, hey, take lightnings for a spin.
The
That
other
sounds
concern
kind of
with-
hard based on what I just listened to, where she's lacking
Yeah.
so many different things here, there. Can't equip rods, but wants to be a mage. I didn't know that she was a mage on her Brave ship, so I just learned something.
Yeah,
I think that's her strongest form, right? Dream. What does she do
Yeah,
in base
yeah.
now?
Her
her base
Her
form,
base
not
form
much.
damage did not gain much, but
Yeah, she got some mods, right?
yeah, it's pretty weak.
One of the things...
She didn't get any mods for her old skills, but she got a new chaining skill, but it's not that strong.
One of the
Okay.
So
things
yeah,
that's
the base form will mostly just be used for the breaks in emergency.
fascinating about Alim and their ability to NVA old units is they literally put it on a spinning board, and I think they just RNG choose what they're... like, there's no reason Radiant Lightning to be a mage, in my opinion. Like, or...
Sabin,
No,
guys.
I don't agree with
Sabin.
you.
Or how
It's
Fid
changing
suddenly,
up.
Fid suddenly became a physical damage chainer and in her shift. Radiant Lightning became a mage out of nowhere. Like, what are the baselines of choosing what they do?
I
in
think
their
they've
shifts?
given like
They made Sabin a tank and a mage, okay? They still did my boy dirty.
like in Final Fantasy 13, your units switch roles mid combat, and one of the roles uses a bunch of magic. So I can kind of see how they wanted her Brave Shift to be something that wasn't a physical damage dealer.
And I mean, also, it is a bit of fun, too. Like, I mean, refreshing old units with a new role.
I think Lightning in the original series had like the second highest attack and second highest magic. She was supposed to be like a magic sword user. Oh. But so
Spellblade.
that's like her theme in almost every iteration from like side games and Theorytum to FFBE now, I guess, is to make sure that Lightning is somewhat of a physical and magical user, but not like the best in either. And they also made sure of that part. Definitely not the best in either ever. But
And yet
what
they've
I'm
never made
disappointed
her a
in,
hybrid.
yeah, what I'm disappointed in is that her third role in 13 was a healer. She wasn't a very good healer, but she was
Ooh,
a
wait,
healer.
hold
So
on.
Now that I'm listening in,
Hold on, that's coming.
It is.
It is.
Well, no, she doesn't really. I don't think
Not
she
really.
really has.
Not
the
really.
What do you mean?
anywhere.
What do you mean? So, the next unit
Like,
is like a really shitty healer as well. So
Oh,
it's coming, I'm telling you.
we can curse. We can curse. Can we curse?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. She's a shitty healer.
one of the okay, so if are we
She's
moving
got-
on to SOS Lightning then?
I think so. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, let's move on to SOS Lightning.
Before we talk about the unit herself, we should probably talk about two new mechanics that she's introduced.
Oh shit! I was afraid that you were gonna
The
say.
sword board and the chain cap thing. I mean, that kind of leads into it, but okay.
Yeah, because I was gonna say I was
So-
thinking you were gonna talk about the TMR and VC, but okay. Yeah. Yeah. So
Well,
yeah.
that's what he's gonna do because her TMR and her STMR are basically the two new things, right? Her TMR is the shield.
Well,
and
they're
board.
also in
So
her
this is
kit,
so cool. Like,
but-
let's take a trip down back memory lane, okay? So first of all, we had dual wield units. They could hit twice. That was pretty cool. Then came true dual hand units that could get a tremendous amount of attack and could wear weapons that have an amazing amount of variance. And then true dual wield units fell behind because they couldn't get access to this variance. Then true dual wield units came along and buffed the chain to 6x, and then true dual wield took over. And now we have the next cycle in this evolution. Now true dual hand units can get a 6x chain cap.
not yet.
What do you
Not
mean?
yet.
Well,
Yes, we can.
Li-
Yeah, exactly.
Lightning can. None of the others
Some
can
of
get to
them can.
6x.
Yeah, the others could get to 5.5 now if you stack chain comprehension and lightning
Yeah.
STMR.
So
You're using two
there's
material
now-
slots for that. That's terrible.
Yeah, so it's
So
a
you
trade
want to
off
explain
between
what they
healers,
actually are
limit
first?
burst, and then Dream will rant about it when he has time. If he
yeah,
has
so
time.
there's now Lightning or Saviour of Souls Lightning has a passive that increases her chain cap without requiring her to dual wield, and then her STMR does the same thing. There's also an event materia that does it. Her STMR is 100%. The event materia is 50%. Her passive is 100%. So if she equips her own STMR, she has the 6x chain cap, even if she's TDH. But the other new thing that she brings to the table is that, I guess I'm going to call it True Sword and Board. It's like TDH.
That's kind of a bad name for it.
It's kind of
Well,
true.
it's not
I want to
true,
call it like
yeah, 'cause
super true TDH.
It's not true.
Well,
It's
well, that's
How is it not true?
it's the thing that incline. Well, the sword and board name implies that it requires the shield, but really it's just a less restrictive TDH that will activate no matter what, as long as you have one weapon equipped, be it with an empty hand or a shield. one-handed or two-handed
Exactly.
weapon. So yeah, it's like true one weapon or true single wield, if we want to put a name on it.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, so she has some passes for this in her kit, and then her TM is a shield that gets 50%. It's not actually like worth it on her as far as I'm aware. Like it's probably fine for mages. TDH units probably still want to use a two-handed weapon.
I guess it depends very much
Or
on your
physical
gear, I
The
guess.
two-handed
But yeah.
weapon thing. Well, no, I think it's never ideal for damage. Basically, we're going to start see it being used on tanks a lot more, which bulks them up a lot. But yeah, for damage dealers, you want to use a two-handed weapon, and I'm a bit overall, I'm a bit annoyed about this actually, and it's more on the unconditional chain cap increase, because if they had made these unconditional chain cap boosts not work with two-handed weapons, just made it restricted to any one-handed weapon, it would have basically made like two new build types viable. You could have had sword and shield be actually good for damage, or even like single wielding a one-handed weapon. How long since has that been relevant?
See,
And both of those could have come back if it didn't work.
I mean, there is a bit of a niche used for the whole sword and board part. Like just getting those insane defensive stats on Lightning, and I think Beatrix later in the future. So you get a unit who can both like tank and do a bit of serviceable damage.
Beatrix
So
just
there's that
tanks.
very tiny
Beatrix
niche.
does not do damage.
So
No. Yeah,
Well,
it can kind of be used for a bulky damage dealer, but
I just want to add to what Jim is saying though, like because I think the intent that they ALIM introduced both of these at the same time in JP is that they wanted people to use a sword and board, but compensate for the fact that they can't equip TDH weapons by increasing the chain cap for these sort of units. The issue is the chain caps are unconditional, so what people are just going to do is put on Black Sparky, which is 1.5 variants, and then get the 6x chain modifier, which would be the goal for a lot of like people that could do that. So in a sense, they invalidated sword and board as soon as they release it because of the unconditional chain cap.
Are you saying that Alan didn't understand what they were doing when they designed the mechanic?
No. I think they understood this very well. And I think you're underselling the part about her TMR being very, very strong for especially new players that just got into the game. They get the event sword, they get the TMR shield, and that's a huge stat boost on Lightning without,
The problem is that we don't have any other TD8 or any other true single wield gear yet. So if you're using a shield, then you can't use Buster Style or whatever else to get more TDH.
And even with her own vision card, she doesn't cap. So there's that issue
Yeah.
too. Like you're not capping that stat at all. So it's really not optimal.
Yeah, what do you get to?
Eventually,
350?
as we get more of this gear, I think that like Rod and Shield could be good for mages because they're better than True Double Hand because they'll be able to cap and also get magic from a shield. But right now, it's not there yet.
it'll be a long time before that type of build can cap 400% equipment magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
until
but,
then, it's going to be worse.
but everything that we talked about so far was an asterisk on the unit itself because we haven't really talked about SOS Lightning and what she can actually do.
Yeah.
This is a
She
huge
does
ass
also have a
asterisk.
full kit.
Yeah,
Yes.
wait. But there is another
So-
asterisk I do want to bring up before we go into the unit itself. I did not mean to pull on this banner. I had no plans at all. And I log into the game and I see this sprite and I see the LB and fuck. Now I have a Lightning.
It seems everyone except me is just getting random lightnings.
I
Hey,
mean, it
Dream,
was
you
a
hear about
very,
how I got my Lightning?
Yes, I watched it happen.
Did you all see how Sinzar got his Lightning? Rest in peace, Sinzar. We all remembered your luck, but I am so fucking happy it's over. Fuck you, Sinzar. Okay, no. I love you, bitch.
What's funny
Since
is that I
finally
think
experiencing what it happens to be
I-
like a normal person
I
and
think-
have normal luck.
Lightning's the first unit that all of us pulled for, like and got. Because
I did not pull for Lightning. I just got her up an EX
you
ticket.
got her in the end. The point is, this is the first time we all own the same unit. I think on the same day that week. That
I
it was
don't
released.
have her. Did you
Really?
not listen, Shadow?
Maybe culture really changed that much. I'm
No,
surprised.
it's more like Lightning is like the new Cloud, okay? So everyone pulled for original Cloud because of his 100% true double hand. Everyone went for NV Cloud because of his 200% true double hand STMR. And now everyone's waiting for Lightning because her STMR is this new sword and board or is this new increased chain cap thing.
What you're saying is Cloud and Lightning are both STMR
Yes.
slaves?
Yes.
Well, no, that's not true because that's not true at all.
Else.
That's not true at all because
Cloud
SOS
was actually good for his time.
No. Cloud was outclassed quite quickly, but SOS Lightning is really good. And she has a specific niche that even to this date in JP hasn't been eclipsed in terms of that niche. So we can talk about her kit. And just going forward, and this is more of a note, is that going forward, Alim actually created more of these sort of units where there's a specific thing that these units do, and they do it very well, but they don't do anything else. I think they learn. Maybe they didn't learn, but I think they learned from FaZe a bit in that you can't just give every unit literally everything. You can't just dump everything into the units. So what a lot of the future units will turn out to be is that there's a lot of focuses. A lot of the NVAs will do that, like NVA Gilgamesh, NVA Bartz, or Tidus enhancements. All those things in JP really turn out to be a focus on certain things, and they do that shit so well that they don't. It's really hard to outclass them.
Well, if you're gonna bring it up like that, what is it? What is the thing that she
Endless
does so
cliffhanger.
well?
Wait, so
thing is,
before we
though,
go
like,
into the unit, I also want to talk about the TMR, STMR, and VC.
No, we've talked about them. I want to disagree with Shadow though, because I feel like all of the units he listed, including Lightning, they have that sort of one unique thing, but they are also often units with quite diverse kits and a lot of different things they can do.
Well, in the sense,
I sort of feel the opposite.
Really? Because I think when we look at so this is a good time to talk about Lightning then, because Lightning does respectable physical damage, and her physical damage is in her base form with her limit burst is where most of her damage is, but in her brave shift is where there's a lot of interesting things going on, in terms of, I guess, utility. So let's start with the limit burst.
No. Hold on.
90% SPR.
You forgot to say the most important thing for Lady here. So in both forms, SOS Lightning has dual white magic and Kuraga in her kit. So there you go.
Oh boy, I have a healer on my Lightning team.
She can heal like 5k a turn.
So in reality, the use for her is as sort of like a dodge provoke tank / breaker that also, like, she has a 70% spirit break in her brave shift, and some future bosses in JP start to not have stat passes.
90% must spell, not 70%.
Yeah, so I was going to say 70% is kind of low.
Oh, sorry, 90%, yeah. So, since the bosses don't have stat passives, the difference between an 85% break and a 90% spirit break is really big. It's, I think, Dream, you said it was 1.5x
times.
Yeah, so that's a lot of extra damage.
50% better than an 85% break.
So,
and if the boss doesn't have any dispels or anything, she can also maintain an 85% full break with her disaster cooldown.
So, Lady Hero, if you're interested, the specific niche that Lightning does really, really well is the 90% SPR breaks. No one else does that.
That's the thing she won't be outclassed as.
So she's the best in mage offensive breaker. That is
but
very
for
niche.
burst
Thank
only
you.
also, because her LB only lasts for 2 turns.
But it's not just mages though, because currently our top bursters are the evokers. So like Terra, I think maybe Faris and upcoming Luna Freya too.
Carlton, those are a type of mage.
Side note, Barris, you said the break lasted 2 turns. Functionally, it's 3 because of how debuff.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, because you have the
durations,
third
you
turn
always
to
add
have you do the damage on the turn, it expires on the boss. Yeah.
So, in a weird sense, the 90% SPR break is actually better than it looks purely because of DV is a big content, so DV scoring will matter for this because that's what DV is all about. Burst. The other thing is stat passives.
In DV, it won't matter as much because the enemies have stat passives.
Well, I still think 90% to 85% is sometimes, for me, in my experience. I started playing DV again. I hate myself for doing so, but my experience that 5% difference sometimes is enough for me to just cap and not cap.
Yeah, I mean, it's not nothing. It's just less than if it had no.
Yeah.
It's not going to be 50% more damage. It's.
Yeah.
And I think, like, especially in DB, like, Lightning can take over your breaker slot because she also has on her break shift form, she also have 85% breaks. Yeah. And disease, like, if the boss is weak to that.
Absolutely. And I have a question to Dream, the math god. So I had a feeling when I was looking at Lightning's kit and looking at what she can equip. We already kind of mentioned this, like this awesome synergy of you can actually equip Sparky, and then you have the 6x chain cap as well. That's pretty cool. Is this a unit that scales better with STMRs than other units? Would you say this is like a unit that really excels when whaled out?
Yes, I would say that because, I mean, like at lower gearing levels, she might have a bit of issues because she only has 100% innate basic attack, so that's like quite hard to cap. But when you're really whaling out, you can do it a lot, and especially with external support as well, because like the 90% Spirit Break will give her that kind of staying power, but like her sort of primary role, I would say right now with her physical damage is also really good right now, and if you externally support that with like extra LB fill, it can be like really top tier.
I mean,
currently, but like
she's already, if you just do the standard rotation, which is LBing once every 3 turns, right? She's still like what, top 5 or something. I mean, she's still very strong, is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah,
around
the bottom of the top 5, I think.
The fascinating thing about Lightning is that if it's less about the gear. Well, it is about the gear too, but it's also about, as Dream mentioned, if you can get her LB up not every 3 turns, but like every 2 turns, or even every turn that Sensar does like to do a lot. Then her damage just skyrockets. But that's true for almost every NV damage LB base dealer, so it's not unique to her.
Yeah, I mean, like if you do the same for last gen, you're gonna break face with it too. So
now I'm just thinking that I can use my OG Lightning and buff the LB and lightning damage on my fancy shiny new NV Lightning, who is now a spirit mage on her Brave Shift form. If I manage my lightnings in this format, would it make sense?
So SOS Lightning's biggest damage is physical. Her mage damage is actually ignorable. Like I asked you, Dream,
really
because I was doing it and I was like, this seems really low. But
But is her LB not magic damage like it says on the Winky?
oh, it is, but it's the base form.
If I'm spamming it every
all
2 turns,
base...
won't I be doing more magic damage?
Oh, so the LB you want to be spamming is her base form, not her Brave Shift. Her base form LB is physical damage.
You kind of either use her as physical damage or breaking. Those 2 roles don't really mesh with each other at the same time.
But isn't the 90% spirit on the Brave Shift break?
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's on her shift.
She can fill different roles, but when you go into a fight, you're going to decide whether she's a physical damage dealer on that fight, or whether she's going to be like a breaker / maybe dodge tank. But she's not going to be breaking and then also doing physical damage, probably.
Okay,
well...
so what you're saying is that if I wanted to have her support my mage team, I can use her mage side to do the 90% Spirit Brace. But if I decide to use her as a damage dealer, she should be an LB physical spammer on her base.
Yes.
Correct.
There, in Dark Visions, you could probably have her break in her Brave Shift and then shift back to base form and burst on the kill turn, maybe. But aside from that, I don't think you're really meshing the 2 kits very much.
Yeah, for trials, you probably stick to 1 form mostly.
I beat Ashura using 2 Saviour of Souls Lightning, and both of them were my breaker and physical damage dealer. So it works, but it was gimpy as hell. I guess I'm just saying.
When you have 2, you can like do some more awkward rotations, but...
And we also forgot to mention one thing that's maybe not as... We're not mentioning it because it hasn't been hot for quite a while, but she has a very easy time to gear for incredible attack or magic, as well as being a full dodge provoke tank, which is kind of nice, I guess, on a trial where you do need that, because she can actually... I saw Trag like throwing around a build in the Discord the other day. It was like, I don't know, 5k attack and still 100% evasion and draw. It's like ridiculous.
Wow.
The problem is that...
But keep in mind that it's JP though, where you can stack everything.
Sure, but still.
Yeah. In gearing a TDH unit for dodge can be a little rough. She does have 50% innate dodge, so it's not that bad. But like... Colorful Lay is a common option for dodge builds, and that's true dual wield. Well, TDH.
Even forgetting the dodge, just look at her LB. She has 2-stack Mirage on her LB. So if you're using that every other turn, you're gonna have a lot of stacked evasions every turn, I think. So
yeah, but the problem is that
I
boss
mean,
attack and magic is so high these days that if she, like 2 stacks of Mirage every other turn is not enough to dodge everything. So if she
Maybe.
takes an undodged hit and she's not geared like an actual tank, she's probably gonna die.
Yeah. On the other hand, you can kind of use the sword and shield build for a bulky lightning, and then one of her regular chains gives her 75% self-mit, so she
Yeah,
can just be a bulky provoke
Even with
chainer
that,
as
I
well.
checked, her defense only ends up at like 1400 or so, which is...
Like, I've seen it used in practice. It can work on some
Yeah,
fights.
it depends on the fight, but like I said, a lot of bosses are going to hit so hard that she would take a dirt nap if you did that. So you just have to think about what you're fighting.
well, we
And she has even more slight niches, just quickly.
Yep.
She can AoE imbue and amp lightning, though that amp is weaker than like the base form lightning's LB. It's 15%. And she also has break bar skills for sword and rod, split across the two forms, which can be handy.
the last thing is she does have 90% mitigations to fire, ice, lightning, elemental resist. 90% on the spammable move is high, but the issue is that it's also tied to her provoke move. So
Yeah.
you got to be careful when you use that.
I kind of want to talk about, like, I'm sure some people are wondering whether they should pull for her, either based on her as a unit or based on her STMR. As a unit, she's definitely not bad. She's really interesting. Like Dream said, she does a lot of different things and can fill a lot of different roles. She's not a must-have. Some people are wondering if, like, this is the unit that you have to have for upcoming trials, and she really isn't. But you can do fun stuff with her if you have a lot of spare resources, or if you want to play around with weird strategies. Go for it. If you're short on lapis or tickets, and you're really looking for a power jump, she's not going to do that much for you.
On the other hand, I'd say that she's a good get purely because the longevity of how she is going to be in your team.
Compared to other units, she does feel like one of the better chasers, because if you want to do like all the trials, all missions on release, say, a couple of those are going to be very hard to get in turn count, like the turn count mission without her break.
And we've all experienced Bahamut by this point, about how like we had like 3 or 4 turns of actual damage burst window, and then he got his break bar back up. That's sort of mechanic where we have to do damage within 3 to 4 turns is going to become more common.
Doesn't really show up.
So, yeah.
It hasn't yet, to be honest. Like the next half a dozen trials, you just kind of do sustained damage.
I also want to talk about her STMR and whether that's worth going for, and not really. Like, it's good, but people are looking at it like it's a massive damage increase for all kinds of units, and it's much smaller than you'd think from looking at it.
Yeah, you'd rather have the right
it's
killers.
Usually ideal. No, it's usually ideal to use a slot for like the units that it works with, the TBH units, but it's not going to be like a massive jump or anything.
I think somebody mentioned that if Lightning didn't have her own 100% chain cap increase, this might be more worth it. But because she already has an 100% increase, like this is actually...
I'm talking. I think like Lightning's own damage is kind of unremarkable enough that people aren't using her just for that.
But I think I've just seen memes of people talking about using Sparky with 6 times chain cap and how that would be great.
Well, yeah, but I think that's more on other units.
It is.
So, all right. Have
I
we
will
talked
say,
about...
listening to all of this,
Agree to
I feel a
disagree.
lot better about my misconceptions and how things actually are from my math lords. That I got the impression that if she was another STMR slave like Radiant Lightning, but after hearing everything out, it sounds like she's actually a decent unit in many different ways, fulfilling a lot of roles. From breaking very well in spirit and having longevity in that role, but also being a decent damage dealer right now. And hearing that, I feel a lot more reassured about trying to take on some trials with her. I gotta say, I'm a bit more curious about something else too, which is, so there's since I want to use a all lightning party, and assuming I'm gonna be delegating roles now. So from what I hear, I can be using my lightning as my NV lightning as a evade, provoke, LB buffing, and possibly breaking on emergencies. I also have 2 other lightnings that supportively does damage. Perhaps they don't fulfill what is needed for modern day trials, but they can do to clear some of the older content. And then we have the cover tank lightning from Etrol's Lightning. And finally, there's a new lightning that's introduced. Some people might not know that Lumina is also a lightning. She, by lore, spoilers, is what can be considered a younger lightning. I'm curious about how younger lightning Lumina does in this current scheme of things.
Can I just say that this is the
quick-
smoothest transition we've had from a unit?
Yeah, I just want to say,
conversation
Shadow,
ever.
you're fired from the pod, and Lady Hero is going to do the transitions from now on.
I want to point out that everybody who's listening to this podcast is now also Lightning.
You're lightning, I'm lightning, and apparently someone over here is Cloud, because we also have many clouds. That's Cage Cloud,
and
normal
there's a
Cloud,
lot
and
of rain
female
as well.
Cloud. We're all
FFBE
But
is
let's
a whole
talk about
story.
Lumina.
Lumina as a unit is
is
not.
she
The
usable
thing
at
with
all?
Lumina is she doesn't exactly have a role.
I thought she had like a,
She has a couple
30
of niche
LB
abilities.
buff. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if anyone has like more than that, but back in the day we used like Nyx, and he had to suicide himself for like 25 LB.
There is a unit that has more, but it's clunkier to use because Emperor Fu can just completely fill everyone's LB gauge, no matter how much they need. But he needs a full Esper gauge to do it, and he can
I
do
would
that
say
on turn 1. But
Realm
it's tough.
also, Realm also probably has a better LB fill because she has a similar one that fills 30, but she also has an on-demand one that fills 10,
But she has to.
and can potentially multicast those together.
She has to I guess kill herself in a way, like fix damage 4K to herself. It's not terrible. It's obviously like recoverable,
but-
but like
yeah, you just gear up bulk. Lumina's one also does 8k to all allies except caster actually. So
Yeah,
that
and
hurts
I think the
team.
more interesting thing about this skill, to be honest, is the 150% LB buff to the entire team. I think that's a really big thing, and that's something that we got like from Yoshi before, and Yoshi does it for 1 turn.
Yoshi mattered for a while because we were using Ibarra a lot for Dark Visions, but she's kind of gotten power crept by now. And a lot of the other units with good LBs have bigger buffs already. Like, this isn't bad, but if she had come out 2 or 3 months ago, this would have been a huge deal. Right now, it's not as important.
well, even if it's not as important.
So
I'd
for
still-
me, who skipped Yoshi, I can consider her 150% LB
Yes.
buff to be
Absolutely.
relevant.
It depends on
It
who you're
depends.
using.
And
A lot of
Like-
the units with...
that will be handy. Hold on, that will be handy for Radiant Lightning.
And for, Cloud and other finishers that might not have 150% buff.
The thi-
Okay, Baron,
Well,
moving
Baron,
They
the
did
on.
not
thing
get
is-
the memo. This is the Lightning team.
those units already have 100% LB damage buffs, so going to 150% is going to add, like, depending on how much LB damage you have from gear, probably like 10 or 15% damage, which is not nothing, but I think people often see these big LB damage buffs and think they're stronger than they are.
But
One thing I do want to talk
The
about,
thing is,
though,
though,
is...
hold on.
hold up.
Sorry, go ahead.
On that existing point, Radiant Lightning and several of these other units that have their own big LB damage buffs, those are on Granduses, and therefore they run out after a few uses.
There we go. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. Because like if we look at Uraisha's big LB fill ability, that's also on the Grandis, and I use Uraisha for a lot of that too. But the thing is, it's again on the Grandis, so this is on a cooldown that comes back at 5 turns. So I feel like this still has a lot of value to it.
Depends, like you have to bring Lumina for this to work. Like Eurasia has more use outside of her limit damage buff or her field.
Hey, Lumina can actually give cover to a boss. That's a huge use. Actually,
Yeah, that's what I want to talk about, because that actually can be useful. It's really fucking weird.
That's her other niche.
Yeah, so she has an ability...
It's a good meme.
which gives one enemy cover for 1 turn. The enemy will cover other enemies. And that sounds completely useless at first. But if you have an
there
AoE
is
tag
2
chain,
uses for it.
and there's like a bunch of enemies, you can put cover on one enemy, and then use the AoE tag chain, and it'll all hit that one enemy. And because it's a tag chain, it won't break instantly when they get hit multiple times by the same unit, and you can do massively increased damage.
because this unit does
So, like, let's-
takes all the damage
Like
that all the
mechanics.
other units took with 50% mitigation.
Yeah, so let's say you were doing Chocobo Battalion. You could have her put cover on one of the Chocobos, and then use an AoE tag chain, and then that chocobo would just pretty much get instantly deleted.
I did not know it could be used like that. So it literally just uses cover, the usual cover that we, the players, use onto
Yes.
the enemy.
Yes. It's normally useless, but you can do it. There's also been applications of it in Dark Visions, from what I understand, because there was a final boss where there was a really tough boss and 2 super weak little enemies. So somebody put cover on the boss so that they could do like a setup turn and then do a huge AoE burst for extra damage and get a higher score more easily.
Yeah, that was for setting up the new stacking LBs on some JP units in their latest sort of Vision World event thing from the collab. But yeah, and the cover thing, like the tag chaining, it only specifically works with tag chaining because, as you've probably seen in Arena with AoE skills on cover, they will break because they are 2 hits from the same unit hitting at the same time. But when it's a tag, they instead just self-spark a whole bunch and ramp up chain mod instantly.
Yeah.
But there's only, like, it's specifically physical cover as well, so we have exactly 1 unit that can make use of that, which is Rain and Fina.
Yeah.
And then if we get the new Full Metal collab, the Alpha Elric Bros will be able to do that as well.
Yeah.
It's very niche, but
yeah, so Lumina is not a particularly great unit, but she's interesting, and once in a while you might bring her out, which is more than we can say for some of these free units. Also, her TM is excellent, and her STMR is incredible. So definitely get those.
That's what I wanted to ask.
those are very nice
next,
free pickups.
Because I've been gone from FFBE active playing for a really long time, and I saw that her TMR was a 25% dodge chance. Is that the normal type of thing we're getting for free
No, not
these
at all.
days? Because I need to keep up with.
No.
This is very good. We have gotten a free 20% dodge materia like once
From
before.
Kingdom Hearts?
Yeah, from Kingdom Hearts. There was also a trial one.
Yeah, dodge roll.
If you have that.
Alright, thank you. Because I was like, has this been like free stuff, power creep too? What did I miss out on?
This is the second highest dodge of any materia in the game. The only thing that beats it is Kaito's STMR.
I mean, it's a lightning special.
I think
like even her STMRs are really great because from what, if I'm not mistaken, like this is the only piece of clothing that gives 8 limit burst. That fills the limit burst gauge by 8 every turn.
Yeah,
is
it's
it?
huge. I mean, 8 is so close to capping. Like you can do it with 1 clothing item. It's very cool.
See, 8 is more than 1, so it's really good.
Yeah.
LB fill
Math checks out. Math checks out.
Thanks,
Thank you.
LB fill on an armor piece is already very rare, and for it to have 8, it's just amazing.
I just want to notice or notice something about this unit for the newer players or the listeners that might be new players. I don't know if we have any of those. Maybe everyone that listens are veterans. But she does have a physical damage combo ability that hits 6 to 8 times, and it's dual. It can be dual cast. You can also dual wield. It's nice if you don't have a White Mage Rose or a Zon and you're doing some of the Pog battles for some of the earlier units, because she can then easily break the boss bar in a single turn. So just putting that out there, it's a nice thing that she can have.
I'm glad that we had this chance to talk about 4 different lightnings in one episode, guys. I'm sure that we can't even fit any more lightnings in.
Normally they say lightning doesn't even strike twice, but here we've got 4 strikes.
One quick note, we're not going to talk about Untamed Wolf Eagle this week because there's so much to talk about, and she's not coming out until like the day the episode releases, so she will be discussed next week. But we can talk about the ability awakenings for the other Final Fantasy 13 units.
Yeah.
They actually exist
and
again.
These enhancements are good. They're back. We finally got enhancements. Most of them are good. 2 out of 3.
So there's not really a whole lot to unpack here, but like Vanille gets 130% in peril and an Earth Amp and
5% extra breaks.
Yeah, so she's
slightly better uptime.
She's a little better as a breaker in trials, although nowadays most people probably have someone that's as good as her in that respect. In Dark Visions, she could see more use because of the Elemental Amp and the bigger Imperil on Earth stages.
Excuse me.
But yeah, there's not a whole lot else to say there. She does get like permanent quadcast basically, but she has nothing useful to do with it.
One thing I want to point out though is that like
it's really for support.
For everyone else that have NVA breakers like Shadow or Fid, this isn't much of an upgrade. But for newer players that can't collect 4 copies of Fid or 4 copies of Shadow, they only need 2 copies of vanilla, and that's the benefit here. And I think that I want to point that out because a lot of us, we already have NV breakers or NVA breakers, so in a sense vanilla isn't an upgrade. But because I think for a lot of newer players it's harder to say, oh, get just 4 copies of Shadow or STMR Mughal and then NVA. It's easy, it's better for those sort of players that still need to collect breakers. This is probably more efficient just to UOC if you want to get a second copy. So just want to point that out.
She's a very nice, cheap support breaker.
Yeah. So for the price relative and the performance that she gives, she almost competes with a lot of the. I would say she actually competes with a lot of the NV breakers with what she does. But
yeah, she's got a different niche.
Yep.
Which
she's more offensively oriented. Sort of, but yeah,
it's fine.
Yep.
Yeah, but she's got that NV tier 85% breaks sustainable pretty easily. So, and then the next enhancement that's actually good is Fang, who has done what was thought to be impossible and had actually half decent damage as a 7-star in the
first
area.
one of several to come, but yeah.
So what do you mean by half decent damage? How decent is half decent?
Like she
bursts harder than Tifa.
Pretty comparable to Tifa, a bit harder if you support her up a bit more. But yeah.
She actually bursts harder than almost every NVA from the early era, so that's a non-starter. So she's actually an amazing damage jumper. If you have 2 copies of her, you should be really happy.
And she actually gears very easily as well, because with just her 7-star, she now has 700% innate jump damage out of 800 max.
So you're saying that Fang
huge.
doesn't quite eat through as much of my jump gear as Edgar.
Yeah, because the way that Fang works is because she's already almost capped at jump. She now has more flexibility to work with killers and whatever else you need to gear her for. So in a sense, she has a higher floor than most other jumpers that we've had so far.
Yeah, I think Edgar will still usually be better than her. I mean, that's sort of to be expected.
You're comparing an NV unit to a 7-star unit.
Yeah, she is. That's the whole thing. She is surprisingly competitive.
So she can replace Tifa in my BB team.
Possibly.
You want to do a comparison of which one actually is going to hit harder, because it will probably be fairly close.
Also, keep in mind she can't burst until turn 3. Tifa bursts on turn 2.
It takes longer for her burst to kick in, just because of how jumps take 2 turns anyways. But then she also has a setup turn as well. So just keep that in mind.
Good finisher, but we can probably move on to the last one.
Yeah, so it's the unit that actually is bad.
Do we need to?
So Never-Ending Hope, who is
the week's disappointment,
a never-ending font of disappointment.
He's hopeless.
Yeah. I mean, he
gets better magic mitigation. He's now at 35%, which would have been good 7 or 8 months ago.
How long ago was Luna Freya released? Like a year?
I mean,
she was December
Luna Freya was
2019.
alone on top of the game for a long time, so there was room to be worse than her and still be okay. But yeah.
Yeah, Hope is a massive disappointment. So
yeah, I'm sorry.
Just like he is in his
own
own game.
I don't even know what the upgrade is, and I'm already disappointed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They've really made the great decision to at least partially try to focus on his really important part of his damage as support.
Yeah, his non-elemental. Oh wait, no, I guess they are elemental.
Yeah, but really he gains nothing. So unfortunately, yeah.
Guys, Hope doesn't exist. Hope does not exist in this game. So
there's something else that's actually relevant to Hope that we should mention, which is the green magic buffs.
Oh, that's a good segue. I was going to do something else, but that's a good segue.
Yes. Gosh, Shadow.
So please stop doing
this. Go to segue school.
There was a better one, but okay, go for it, Misbah.
So this week they buffed a lot of the green magic abilities. The Bargoth spells went from 70% resist up to 80%, but more significantly, Protectka and Shelga are now 200% spirit and defense buffs that also give 30% tight to mitigation.
Protectka and Shelga are only 100% on the base stat. It's Brave and Faith are 200% attack and magic though.
Yeah.
You're saying now with the buff to Protect and Shell, does that mean Uraisha's TMR is now basically best in slot for all tanks?
Yeah, it's a really nice auto buff.
It depends on whether or not you have other sources of those type mitigations.
Have you guys looked at?
It can also be just great if units are being dispelled or
Have you
anything.
guys ever
that's
looked
true.
at Lordly Robe? Because that thing is actually pretty good now.
Yeah.
Uraisha's STMR.
There's a lot of nice
Uraisha's
auto buffs
STMR
for
does not
support.
give Protector Shell, though. You might be thinking of something else.
Uraisha's TMR.
Her
TMR.
Oh, TMR. Sorry, you're right.
But yes, any gear that now gives Auto Brave, Auto Faith, Auto Protect, or Auto Shell is now a lot
Notably,
better.
this does
'cause you
not
can do it
include
with
the
things
item
like-
world buffs, which still suck ass.
Yeah, no, they're different.
So
But you can, for the offensive ones, you can have it on like a base form that you don't use for damage, and then like shift and have the auto buff.
Wait, what else are
Because they
there?
can't be dispelled either. I don't
Miracle
think.
Like, I remember- Like, there were other buffs, right? There were also something like Imperial, wasn't it?
Yeah, Imperil is now 100%.
Oh, yeah, Imperil is a big one to all elements, yeah. So that's really nice
what
to
else?
have. Basically, green magic nodes on Espers are a lot
Yeah,
better
D
now.
Shell and D Protect are now 75% breaks, and I guess they buffed Reflect, but that doesn't really matter because nobody uses that for anything. And they buffed the ailment spells because everybody uses those, right?
Hey, don't complain. They did a nice buff to spells that were largely useless for good 2-3 years or something, and I think it's nice. It gives them some more options and actually making units that are green mages that actually do stuff that's useful.
Cotton, you had something to add?
There are. I just want to add, like, the buffs and all were nice, but there were some glaring omissions, right? Like, didn't one of the FF13 units have something called Imperial Guard? That wasn't buffed at all.
Yeah, there's a couple of... Yeah, Imperoga didn't get buffed. Bringing it back to Hope, I guess he's got Veil, which doesn't get buffed yet, but I think that gets buffed in, like, the Black Magic update and becomes
Yeah,
AoE.
there's a bunch of, like...
But I guess just
There's a
forgot
bunch
it
of
for now.
one-off spells that aren't affected by these updates.
Okay.
Like, I don't think in Thunder got affected either.
Shantoto. Poor
One of
Shantoto.
Anyway, there's good summaries of all this on
One
the
of
Reddit.
the fascinating intricacies of this is that if you let's look at almost TMR like Lordly Robe, it's really good now because it goes both auto shell and auto protect. But the way that how Brave Shift works, if you put this on your Brave Shift and then you shift back to your base form, you still have the buffs, your auto shell and auto protect, and that's permanent. Then it can't be dispelled. So in a sense, one of the things that I found that you could abuse is if, and this is an SOS Lightning is what I did, is you equip her damage on her base form, but in her Brave Shift, you give Lordly Robe, you get Uraisha's TMR, you give all the weird old gear that gives auto shell, auto protect, and all those sort of buffs, and then you shift back to original form, and now you have all the buffs without having to rely on external support. So I thought that.
Well, thanks for showing that you listened to me,
You're
Shadow.
Wow, this has been an exceptionally long episode. A lot of lightning talk, honestly.
But we're still not done yet. There's still one thing we need to
What?
talk about.
There is?
There is?
The UI
Do we
update
do it?
is literally the best thing that's happened to this game in like 3 years.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
yes, was that update new? The little chain counter at the top and
Yeah.
the damage
That's new.
numbers having
Yes.
beautiful colors.
Yeah.
There was a load of
And
things.
the reserve box for
Yeah,
units
that was
where
all
you can
this week.
stuff all the useless old collab units that you're never going
Yeah.
to use again, but you don't want to sell them.
And best of all,
Yes.
killer
yes.
filters.
Yes, killer
This
filters.
is really, like, all of it is nice. Yeah, I mean, all of this is, like, quality of life is so nice, but the killer filters, that is where it's at. That is the shit, okay? Holy crap.
I don't have to open the builder every single time I need to find what type of killers that I have. It is awesome.
Yes.
The only thing I'm waiting now for in the filters and or sort options is to actually be able to sort by attack percentage in your materia or like spirit percentage. So you get actually the highest spirit percentage materia at the top. That would be very nice.
You can kind of do that, but it includes TDH and TDW, so it's
Yeah,
not
exactly.
super accurate.
It's annoying right now.
Yeah. Oh, it's not that bad because the high ones are still going to be near the top. But yeah, lots of nice things this week, and there's like a really good detailed summary of all of it on the Reddit from
Yeah.
Cognex.
Yeah.
Amazing update.
So go check
I just
that
want
out.
to say, Gumi, good job for implementing this. But at the same time, there is a conspiracy theory going around that they had to
Wow.
implement this because they wanted to put in the shield upgrades, and it was somehow tied to the spaghetti code that they needed to push the UI update with the shield update.
Yeah. Let's
But
take
that's
any
just,
opportunity to shit on Gumi. This is actually nice. Let's not ruin it.
No, I'm not shitting on them. I'm just saying that this isn't shitting on this.
The shield buffs were newer than most of the other things we got in this update in terms of JP schedule.
Yeah, and this wasn't shitting on it. It was just a funny little side that how we got this like without any announcements. Because I'm kind of surprised that Gumi didn't hype this up. This is actually something that they should have hyped up, I think. But
They did. It was in the last update.
the
video.
UI update.
Oh no, I was talking.
Yeah,
about
I was
Shield.
talking about the UI update because they never
That's what
talked
you meant.
gave news about it, or because I think this is the sort of thing that they probably should have mentioned in the stream, but they didn't. But
Classic Gumi PR.
No, but
Gumi
from
nice.
what I understand, the reason why they don't hype is in case they have issues implementing it. So it's like a bit of a pro and cons there.
maybe.
On the one hand, Gumi is not necessarily great at communication or releasing things in a timely fashion or keeping the game interesting. On the other hand, people on Reddit tend to give them zero credit even when they do things well and will complain about things that aren't an issue.
Yes.
So,
Well, that's the episode for today. Hopefully, there's nothing that we missed. There was a shield upgrade. Everyone, make sure to check your shield stats. But it wasn't
Yeah.
something massive.
May I
that we need
have,
to...
may
Yeah,
I have
we're
one
gonna-
last word?
Yeah,
By
go
all
for it,
means.
Lady Hero.
Yes. Okay.
Of course.
I haven't played since probably when Ibarra came out, and I gotta say, if you guys didn't talk about the UI update or all the wonderful new things that's been added in from the shield buffs to the quality of life buff with green magic, I would not have known that it just happened this week. So I'm very excited to come back and be greeted with NV Lightning with almost like a rejuvenation wave of FFBE. So thank you very much to Gumi, and thank you very much to everyone on this podcast.
And thank you everyone
Yeah.
for listening.
Thanks to you.
Oh,
as
thanks
well,
to
'cause
you.
It was lovely
Yeah.
to have you, and it's lovely to have you back.
So, Lady
And-
Hero, will you be staying on and doing more Lightning and Me comics?
I think
It's just
I'm
not
gonna try doing some trials with my all Lightning team from all the wonderful advice I gained here today from our math lords, not math slaves. And I will see what I am capable of, and hopefully some ideas will come about. If I fail fantastically, there will be a comic about that.
You can do
We
it.
believe in
You
you.
can do
Okay,
it.
When I left,
have-
yeah.
We all of
Oh.
us here own a version of Lightning, so if you need a Lightning friend, just let people
Well,
know.
everyone except
A version of
right.
Lightning.
Yeah,
I say a version
Yeah.
of Lightning, so I'm sure.
that's about all I can say.
Alright.
We'll see how dailies go for the rest.
Jim is
of
like the one of us who never gets those envies.
Well, Dream didn't really
the game
pull
loves to
either,
mock
right?
me.
I mean, to be fair, Barrows, you and I barely.
used all of my remaining tickets.
To be fair, Barrows, you and I barely
Yeah,
pulled
hey,
either.
listen. I was down. Yeah, and
Yeah, I've pulled.
I
more
was
for this
planning
than
to
Cotton
pull,
and
but
Barrows.
it just happened. I just happened to shit out on Lightning. I was gonna go and pull and pity one, but I didn't have to. So that's, that was just good news. So don't hate me for having luck for once in a while.
He didn't pick
Well, that's-
Lightning, but Lightning
Yes,
picked him.
yes. And you know what?
Hey!
You know what? Also, Lightning
Yes.
was my very first rainbow in this game. She was actually my very first. I never got any troll rainbows.
all right, and now we're going to end the episode before Barrett can talk about the first time he did anything else, because I know that's where
Oh
this is
my
headed.
god.
All right, goodbye, everyone.